Today, I have an exclusive interview with Jeremiah Owyang, founder and chief catalyst of Crowd Companies, former analyst and keynote speaker. Please join us on this episode of Substance. Jeremiah, thank you so much for being on Substance here with me. I'm excited to have you here.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
Yeah. Well, let's get right into it. I want to make sure that we talk about some of the things that you're starting. You have an announcement to make, I understand. But before we get into that, I just wanted to congratulate you. You've got all kinds of things going on and that you've done, that you've already accomplished, that you should be commended for. I mean, in 2011, you were named by Time Magazine as the Twitter stream to follow.
Thanks.
That's impressive into itself, but then you go back further and I saw in your job role that you were actually a UI designer?
Way back in the early days, not too far from our location here, yes.
Oh my gosh.
So yes, I'm a web professional. That's really been my focus. And I believe that everybody can have a career mission. So my career mission is to help big companies connect to customers using new technologies. So all the jobs or things or companies I want to start align to that mission.
So let's take it even farther back. Your great-grandfather came over from China and stayed here. I saw your last name, now pronounced Owyang.
Right, good.
Was the descendant of a prince. So you're royalty.
I don't know if it's royalty, but it's unclear whether or not there's royalty there. But my grandfather's grandfather came here from China as a delegate from the Emperor of China in the 1880s. And we stayed ever since. So I'm a fifth generation Chinese American, which is very, very rare in this day and age. Tell
me, in growing up, what got you interested in technology, or did you not have technology, and what got you interested in the pursuit of where you are today?
Yes, I'm a Gen X, so I grew up with technology, but a lot of it was potentially analog and then started to move to digital. So I didn't grow up to the internet. That started to come around at the end of high school. And I really feel that's a blessing. I think that the millennials now are growing up with technology. They use Snapchat, they take pictures of their bodies they're going to regret later. There's even a new one called Rumors, where you can send anonymous rumors about people in your school.
Oh, great.
So they're highly connected, but I'm in the cusp between two, and it helps me to understand the two generations that are in this space.
You were a UI designer. You went from UI design then to corporate marketing, and then from corporate marketing into
social,
being and then social to analyst.
That's right.
Give me some context there, because you've covered a lot of ground.
Thanks. I take some pride in that. I did the job in corporate. I worked at PodTech, which is sort of a pseudo agency media house. Then I became an analyst covering the space at Forrester Research, and then I became one of the founding partners at Altimeter Group to help grow that company. So I've covered a lot of angles from in the same industry, the internet itself. So I think it gives more ability to see more things when you have those different lenses.
Where did you learn the most?
Definitely at Altimeter, where when I joined, it was just Charlene as a sole proprietor, and then helped to grow that company, because then you really learn what it takes to build a company. So that really helped me to learn a lot. And there's a lot of mistakes I've made that have helped me to continue to grow.
I bet. Yeah. So what are a couple things now that, and again, I want to get into what you're doing now, but I'm really kind of excited about what made your work as an analyst really project that forward. What did you do there that really got things going for you?
Yeah. So in the recent research that I published there, I was looking at what is the next phase of sharing. And I found a new market that emerged. Some people call it the sharing economy. I also saw the makers movement is on the rise. And so I've dubbed it the collaborative economy, which collectively looks at a lot of those things, including crowdsourcing, crowdfunding, and other things like that. And the real interesting trend, and this is an important one, we're seeing that people are empowered to get what they need from each other. And we saw this happen in the first phase, and when people were creating media and then sharing them, and we call that social media. Well, I saw that there's the next phases here where people are creating the physical world, whether they're making their own products or they're 3D printing them. And there's also the sharing economy. People are sharing their cars, homes, time, as well as money. And when you look at that trend collectively, it means that people are getting what they need from each other rather than buying them anew. And this is a massive disruption. If you thought social media was disruptive, this is far more disruptive because the physical world is now becoming socialized and democratized.
Okay. So you have some news. You have some things that are going on right now.
Yeah.
You have one logo up on a splash page that is about to be released. You're announcing what? What is next? What's next for Jeremiah?
Thanks. So companies are going to struggle with this next phase, and typically what they need is a safe place to learn and share. So I'm announcing the first brand council for the collaborative economy, and it's called Crowd Companies. So a brand council or a trade council is an ancient business model. In fact, it goes back maybe 2,000 years. The Masons were an organization of architects that got together. So some of the world's largest brands like Home Depot, GE, Autodesk, Ford, Hyatt have all joined the council. There should be over 2 dozen companies that are about to be in the launch, and there's a number of startups that are in the innovation network. And we are collectively going to ask and answer the following bold question. What role do corporations play if people get what they need from each other? So that is the question we're going to ask and answer as a council.
That's exciting.
Thank you.
Congratulations. How did that come about? What gave you the idea and the inspiration now to go start your own company?
Well, there's two things. I mean, one is there's a very different business, a new market that I see forming, this next phase, the democratization of the physical world. And I saw that there was a need for an entire company just to stay focused on that topic. I was very focused on the first phase, social, at my prior company, and now I'm seeing there's an opportunity to go for this next market. And secondly, the business model isn't new, but it's an important one when people have a lot of questions and want to learn and be networked. Now is not the time for deep consultation or enterprise software. That's when the market matures. So, but in the beginning of a market, a formation, there's a lot of questions that need to be answered. So that's why this matters now.
So tell me more about Crowd Companies. What's the mission and who can belong, who can get involved?
So you heard the question that we're going to ask. Now the answer is actually this. There's a formula. The mission is the following. Empowered people and resilient brands for shared value. And empowered people means the people that are creating the physical goods. Like I even brought like some 3D printed things here. So this is a designer named Vertox, and he designed this, and it was printed from shapeways.com. You can order it, 3D printing as a service. So he's an empowered person that can create new things in the world. Also, the people that are driving the Ubers that you take around, they're empowered. They're like their own business. So it's empowered people and resilient brands. Resilient brands are companies that are agile, innovative, empowering others, built to last, and of course profitable. And shared value means that they both are going to win. So when the crowd is becoming like a company, and there's already corporations here, we're going to see a new relationship that we've never seen before, where the crowd is starting to become part of your company. I can talk about some examples later.
Yeah, actually, let's go ahead and do that. I'd love to hear.
Sure, absolutely.
Examples,
so to manage the car sharing phenomenon that's been happening, Zipcar, Uber, Lyft, Get Around, Sidecar, blah, blah, car, I mean, it goes on and on and on. We're already seeing that companies are changing their business model to connect with those empowered people. So right now, did you know that BMW and Toyota rent cars from their dealership lots here in the Bay Area?
I didn't.
Yeah, they're starting to kick that off. So BMW has the Drive Now program. You can walk up to a car and borrow it. It's akin to Zipcar. We're also seeing companies like GE sponsor new innovations like Quirky, where the crowd can design new products. We're even seeing U-Haul. You've heard of crowdfunding, right? And it's getting bigger and bigger. U-Haul allows for the people to now invest in the actual equipment in cars. So that's a new model, and they share some of the revenues with them as well.
Wow.
Home Depot rents equipment and trucks as people are doing more tool sharing and things. So they see the need that people want access to things over ownership. And one other example is Nokia released their 3D files for the phone cases and allow people to print and customize them from 3D printers. So they're being open to the crowd who's creating content.
That's like open source.
It is
being created all over again.
So all the concepts that we've seen in the first phase, Napster, open source, wikis, open communications, and social, that's now translating to the physical manifestation in this next market, the collaborative economy.
Wow, so the possibilities are endless.
It is endless. In this radical future, as the crowd continues to become more powerful and they can crowd fund, crowd design, crowd create, crowd share, or can build and do their own marketing and sales and support, companies will partner with people. And it'll be very difficult, Brian, to tell the difference between a customer and an employee. They could become the same. And the way we work it's not going to be very clear.
It also feels to me like this is one of the toughest challenges we have ahead.
This is business model change.
Right.
So from a product company to move to a services company is a massive change. Home Depot, Toyota, and BMW have already done it, started to.
What are some of the things that they did to become a successful crowd company?
Well, first of all, you have to change your mindset to allow for that to happen. And your whole supply chain has to change. So one of the biggest changes, and I heard one of the CSOs, Chief Strategy Officers of BMW, say this on stage. He said, in the future, we know that cars will be saturated in cities. We can't sell anymore physically. So we want to shift our mindset from just selling a BMW once to selling that one car 1,000 times. So that's a very mature mindset to think about this access over ownership. And by the way, that phrase was really set off by Lisa Gansky, who's working in the Innovation Network and really understands that space. So access over ownership, Lisa.
Is part of that getting companies then to work together, not just companies with the crowd, but companies themselves working with other companies?
That'll be part of it. I think most of the relationship will be between them and this new empowered people that are creating their own products and companies. So I think that'll be the big part of it. So one of the ways I'm helping to do that is we're launching an innovation network. I'm hand-selecting startups from the sharing economy and maker movement that want to partner with big corporations. So those partnerships will be brokered within the council.
Oh, great.
Yeah.
God, I'd love to be a fly on the wall in those meetings.
Yeah, I'm sure we can figure out a way to involve you in some of the physical events as well.
Cool,
Yeah.
cool. So how is the social web going to be involved? A lot of people have said social's over.
Well,
is it over?
It's integrated and it's mature. So I was at Dreamforce at the November conference, and Mark Benioff, who's clearly a leader in the space, talked about Salesforce One, and he said mobile, social, big data, and other things like that. And it's just a checkbox now, so it's fully integrated into the space. It is not dead; it's just integrated into everything that we do. In fact, most of the things that you see in the sharing economy, like Airbnb, is leveraging Facebook Connect. So it's part of the fabric that enables people to share or collaborate or create things. So what's more important now is that it enables people to do something. That's the most important part.
So people are still talking about social business. It's gone from social media to social business and now into an integrated model like what you're suggesting.
Yeah.
But a lot of companies still haven't integrated it. It's still one of those things where it hasn't actually been defined. Even though it's called social business, it really has no meaning. Would you agree with that?
I believe it's actually a misnomer. So businesses have not truly become social.
Yeah.
It's only been social communications. The departments that have been impacted, and I've done the research at Altimeter, was communications, PR, marketing, customer care, maybe R&D, maybe. It's really been communications. This next phase that I'm talking about is the physical world. That's truly social business. So that's the business model change, right? So BMW, Toyota are renting cars on demand. That is truly a socialized product.
So taking that now into what you're talking about, things like Uber could have never have existed 10 years ago.
That's right.
Now you have social media.
The difference is because with that phone that you had is we didn't have advanced apps, location-based technology, and a really powerful device that could access those things, plus the social data from Facebook Connect to make that easy. So eBay and Craigslist have been around for a long time and allowed people to share goods, use goods. But now, with these mobile devices, we're seeing people doing it at a very local level.
Wow, that's incredible. So now you look at the sensors, given the sensors and then the data
Internet
and the
of
technology.
Things, sensors, intelligent world. IBM calls it smarter planet, right? These are all part of the same trend that enable this for people to get what they need from each other. So I think the big change here is as we start to categorize and index the world, whether putting devices, and you had Scoble on the show, I'm sure he talked a lot about the age of context. It means we can find out when there's underutilized assets or when people have talents or skills and tap them very quickly. So I recently spoke to one of the Iowa insurance companies, and they said, Jeremiah, what you're saying is interesting, but it's not that new. In the Midwest, we've been sharing or collaborating for 300, 400 years. You're not that new, dude. And I'm like, okay, all right, cool. I accept the feedback. But with technology, it enables us to do it all the time. So they said, in the Midwest, it's not new. It's about being a good neighbor. But now with that mobile device, with the social and the location assets, it means you can be a good neighbor to strangers. That's really what this change is happening.
So it empowers the brands to be a little more personal and personalize the experience and the service for people as an individual. Am I hearing that right?
That's part of it, yep. Absolutely.
Now, what we've gone through in the last 5, 10 years has been really enhancing the individual's brand, almost to the point where it can exist as large as, or if not larger than, the brand itself, larger brands. How are people going to rise up out of the crowd and make a difference and an impact? Is it the voice of the crowd or the voice of an individual that helps move the crowd, change the perception, so on and so forth?
Yeah, it's going to be a little bit of both. So with the more data out in the world, we absolutely know more about people, but collectively we can collect all of this information and try to assemble it all together as one. So it's a little bit of both, absolutely. I think the big trend here is that that people themselves are getting what they need from each other. So corporations have to quickly move forward into this space.
So let's shift a little bit. You have a piece of 3D printing there that you pulled out, and the impact of stuff like that.
Right.
You were saying to me off camera before we started the impact of how Tiffany's.
Yeah, let's just talk about, so, I mean, this is, Shapeways is one of the startups in the innovation network, and this is their business card. It says Shapeways. And this came out printed just like this. It's complex. There's little cubes interconnected on top of each other. It was not assembled. It was done that way. They also printed out earrings. This is one solid, single circle, and it wasn't assembled. It's just printed that way. And even in stainless steel earrings, or even, I'm wearing these cufflinks today, hashtag cufflinks. These were designed by a 3D designer in a marketplace on Shapeways, and then I could order it in any material. I chose stainless steel, and it is solid. So let's talk about this.
Yeah.
So it means that people are enabled to crowd fund, crowd design, crowd produce, crowd manufacture, crowd ship these products. And they don't need to work through Tiffany's or Nordstrom's or Macy's to do that. But it's not just that. It's car parts. It's toys. People are printing out food. You can print out chocolate. You can print out wood now. You can mix that with a filament and print out furniture. People are experimenting with printing homes. It's all very early. There's been multiple 3D printed cars that drive, get 100 miles per gallon. So it means the crowd can build what they want. So what are the big impacts here to businesses? I see 4 major impacts just on 3D printing itself. One is that goods can be produced at a local level, right? Because you can print it. The printer can eventually be in your neighborhood or maybe your home. Number 2, it means that these things can be customized any way you want, and eventually they will 3D print clothes for your body. They're already printing out textiles.
Wow.
A Victoria's Secret runway model show in November was all 3D printed wear.
So for people like me who hate to shop, this is perfect.
That's right. It's a long ways off from being a reality, but you can see where this is headed.
I can't wait.
And the next one is, it also means it's printed on demand when you need it, Brian. So why would you need warehouses and retail environments? And then the fourth one is that you can produce complex things, like I showed you these things. So these spinning circles inside, it was printed just like this. This was not assembled. So it means you can start printing engines. So when you combine all those things, this radically impacts supply chain, warehouses, the retail experience has to change. Like you go to the store and they have all these clothes in different sizes, right? Why would you need that in the future? Why would you need a big box retailer that has all these products in inventory, right, when you can get these things on demand? So the way that we'll think about the consumption experience is about to radically change.
So small, medium, and large won't exist in the
it's
future.
called Bryan size.
Right.
Jeremiah size.
Yeah. I mean, that's what we're all after, is the custom fit, right?
That's right. But that means not just clothes, but for everything in your life.
That's incredible.
Imagine if your car seats and your car dashboard was designed just for you.
So how is this going to impact services? And especially you look at Macy's, Nordstrom, they're offering all these things. Will they exist in the future?
Yeah, so we're seeing a lot of business model shifts happen. So services in general, some of them will shift to marketplaces where you tap other people who deliver services. For example, we're seeing that new forms of delivery of retail are starting to happen with Trunk Club. And they deliver a box of goods to you. You can get it how you want it. Beauty box for women, you're seeing things sent to you, new forms of service in that way. Those are all things that are happening. And we're also seeing that companies are shifting to a marketplace model. For example, Patagonia partnered with eBay to allow people to buy and sell used clothing goods. And that is a revolutionary way of thinking about it, because they're encouraging people not to buy things anew, but to get it used. Tom's Shoes has done the same thing. they recently just launched a marketplace where 30 different makers who created artisanal goods, they're now reselling their stuff around their own brand. So they're expanding it into new ways that we've never seen before. So there's many business model shifts already starting to happen. Another one, GM partnered with Relay Ride, and Relay Ride allows people to actually borrow each other's cars. I did this. I let a stranger drive off my car so I can experiment what it was like. And they use their OnStar technology to find cars that are idle, so you can borrow and access these cars on demand.
How did that feel, giving away?
Unnerving.
I bet.
Unnerving. I probably won't do it again.
No.
It felt like too much risk for what I needed to do. But I wanted to experience what corporations are going to be going through this significant shift. So I use as many of these services as I can, of course.
Sure.
Yeah. Even though the company logo was done by the crowd, and I use Zirtual, and I do co-working, so I try to use as many of these as I can.
What are a couple of the services that haven't been done yet that you can give us a hint or maybe some ideas around?
So some future opportunities that we haven't seen that I expect to happen is so Airbnb right now is certainly hurting hotels, right?
Sure.
It's disrupting them because homes are turning into hotels and people are staying there instead of a hotel.
I just, for the first time, used Airbnb for South by Southwest coming up.
Okay.
So I'll let you know how that experience goes.
Good.
But the process was seamless.
Yeah, and it takes to Facebook Connect. So it makes it simple and easy. And they're rating you both ways, so it's an efficient marketplace.
Right.
So what we should expect to see is a white label version of Airbnb emerge. And so the term white label means it can be branded, any brand. So we saw this in the first phase. When we saw MySpace, Friendster, and Facebook emerge, we saw white label communities emerge for corporations using Lithium, Jive, or Chatter. Okay. So we're going to see the same thing happen. We're going to see branded versions of Airbnb. What I'm suggesting, Bryan, is this. Eventually, Marriott, Hilton, or Hyatt will create their own version of Airbnb. And they will allow the crowd to upload photos and descriptions of that loft you're going to stay at in Austin. What I'm suggesting is that those hotels will eventually franchise the crowd, and you will go to somebody's loft that is Marriott certified. Now, why would you do that? Well, you still get that local experience, but now you know there's a certain level of quality. And for that person who's renting out their home, they get access to towels and new services, and even something that Airbnb doesn't have, the loyalty program. And for Marriott or Hilton or Hyatt, they get to do something. They actually get to resell their services, and they get 10% cut from a transaction they were never going to get in the first place. So that's one of the next phases we'll start to see as corporations move into this space.
So do you think the same thing is then going to happen for things like back to Macy's and Nordstrom and all the retailers that are soon going to lose their position?
We're already seeing this happen. So both Nordstrom and West Elm resell Etsy goods. Etsy is artisan goods created by the crowd in the community. So they're already trying to partner with that. So the experience, so who's a company now, right? So we're seeing that fragment. The company is the crowd, and we're seeing this in many different ways.
What does this mean for the power of the crowd? Will the crowd ever become so powerful that the individual artistic value then becomes more a commodity?
So the crowd is great for innovation of many ideas. The crowd is great for flexibility. The crowd is not always great for scale or consistency. So there are strengths and weaknesses with corporations versus the crowd. They need to leverage and play off each other. We cannot fully move to a crowd model. I've tried with a lot of the things in my company, and just requires so much management that it was just inefficient. It's better to hire full-time people. So there's going to be a trade-off and a balance in this.
And part of crowd partnership, if you will, means building the crowd. That there's marketing value there.
I don't know if you build it. I think you enable or join it because they probably have already existed.
Okay.
Yeah.
Fair enough. Let's get back to crowd companies.
Thanks.
Let's talk about what more we can expect from crowd companies.
Well, the council is now live, and some of the world's largest brands are there, and we're going to be learning from each other. The brands will be talking to each other. We'll also have experts like Lisa Gansky and Mark Hatch from the Maker Movement will be presenting, and Neil Gorenflow from Shareable Magazine, and many others who will present. And we'll also be partnering with startups. So it'll look like these corporations are going to be some of the early movers. These will be the progressive companies in this space. And you'll see them do more deployments working with the crowd for shared value.
Can anybody join?
No. This is really limited to corporations that are progressive, and again, they need to be here for shared value. There are some corporations that do not believe in shared value. You can see by their actions. This is not a place for them.
So there's criteria involved.
There is criteria involved.
Nice. Good. Good. So what's next? Is there going to be conferences, papers? I mean, how closely related is this to an analyst organization? Of what
No,
you
very
think
different. It's a very different business model. So the focus is on the council itself. While I'm absolutely continuing to publish thought leadership and I'm partnering on some research, this is not an analyst firm. There are no analysts per se. So the focus is on the member organization at this time.
Great. Yeah. So you're no longer an analyst. How does that feel?
This feels great. So the title I have is a similar sounding one. It's Catalyst.
Wow.
I want to help trigger corporations into this movement and help connect people in many different ways. So I think that title is appropriate for what I'm trying to do. But over time, as this market matures, my role will shift as needed, as I've done in the last phase. So I will be flexible with what's needed in the market changes.
Fantastic. Is there anything else that I could have asked you here today that I didn't ask so far?
No, thanks, Bryan. We covered so much good ground. Thank you.
Well, thanks for being here. Really appreciate it.
Thanks, man.
Cheers.
Yeah.